إليه منار الليالي وطول الدوام. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد عليه السلام صلاة تدوم وتهدى إليه منار الليالي وطول الدوام. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد عليه السلام صلاة تدوم وتهدى إليه منار الليالي وطول الدوام. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. ظلمت سنة من أحيا الظلام إلى أن اشتقت قدماه الدور من ورمي وشد من سقب أحشاه وطوى تحت الحجارة كاشحا مترف الآدم وراودته الجبال الشم من ذهب عن نفسه فأراها أيام شممي وأكدت زهده فيها ضرورته. إن الضرورة لا تعدو على العصم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. وكيف تدعو إلى دنيا ضرورات من لولاه لم تخرج الدنيا من العدم. محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم. نبينا الأمير الناهي فلا أحد أبر في قوله لا منه ولا نعم. هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته من البحر أو رشفا من الديم وواقفون لديه عند حديم من نقطة العلم أو من شكلة الحكم فهو الذي تم معناه وصورته ثم اصطفاه حبيبا بارئ النسم منزه عن شريك في محاسنه فجوهر الحسن فيه غير منقسم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم تعمتعته النصارى في نبيهم واحكم بما شئت مدحا فيه واعتكم وانسب إلى ذاته ما شئت من شرف وانسب إلى قدره ما شئت من عظم فإن فضل رسول الله ليس له حد فيعرب عنه ناطق بفمه لو ناسبت قدره آياته عظما أحيا اسمه حين تدعى داريس الرمم لم يمتحن بما تعيا عقول به حرصا علينا فلم نغتاب ولم نهب مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم أعيا الورى فهم معناه فليس يرى في القرب والبعد فيه غير منفحم كالشمس تظهر للعينين من بعد صغيرة وتكل الطرف من أمم وكيف يدرك في الدنيا حقيقته قوم نيام تسلوا عنه بالعلوم فمبلغ العلم بخلق نبي زانه خلق بالحسن مشتمل بالبشر متسم كالزهر في ترف والبر في شرف والبحر في كرم والدار في إيمان كأنه وهو فرد من جلالته في عسكر حين تلقاه وفي حشم كأنما اللؤلؤ المكنون في صدف من معدن منطق منه ومبتسم لا طيب يعدل طربا ضم عظمه طوبى لمنتشق منه وملتثم فاغفر لناشدها واغفر لقارئها سألتك الخير يا ذا الجود والكرم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We hold today's Khatam Sharif with the intention that wherever Allah's beloveds are mentioned, Allah's mercy descends upon those places. Now, before we begin talking about this great personality, we want to talk about seeking. And we want you to listen and think about carefully what it is that you are seeking. Now, everybody's looking for something in their life. It doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, we're all seeking something. The question is, what is it that we seek? And the answer is really quite simple. Either we're seeking something that is purposeful, that is meaning, or we're searching for something that is meaningless, which will make us feel good for a moment, give us some satisfaction, but ultimately leaves us empty, guaranteed. Just look at the rich and famous. They're either buying islands, creating rockets that will take people to the moon, like the SpaceX. Every day you hear some bizarre new thing that someone's trying to do, but all they're really doing is desperately trying to fill a void and emptiness inside them. But if you listen to them when they speak, each and every single one of them will tell you that what I'm doing is worth it and what I'm searching for has meaning. They're happy to make compromises and sacrifices for it, even go through humiliation for it. Now, if you ask anyone who's searched for these kinds of things and then got them, they always have some regret. They always wish they didn't waste their life searching for something worthless. Just look at the example of Steve Jobs, the man who owned Apple. Even he realized the emptiness of his life. So these are the two types of searches that a seeker can do. One that has meaning and one that is meaningless. So allow us to tell you a story of a seeker who went on a purposeful search, a seeker of truth. Rusbeh was born in a village near Isfahan in Iran. He was Persian. His father was a high priest and leader amongst his people of Isfahan. Now Rusbeh followed the religion of his father and ancestors, which was Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest religions in the world. Now, people think that these people worship fire, but that's not true. They hold fire to be sacred, but they actually worship two gods. One represents good, and the other represents evil. Now, Rusbeh was growing up in this religion, and he learned everything there is to learn about this religion. But deep down, he felt something was just not right. There was no truth in it. So he was troubled by this. So don't forget, he's still a young boy at this stage, possibly a teenager. So he innocently kept asking his teachers questions, question after question, asking for clarity on certain things, but they couldn't answer him. So the more he did that, the more he gave him answers, the more they confused him. So anyhow, he grew up to be a respectful person in this faith, and he was a teenager this time, and he was loved by everyone in the community. His father was very wealthy. He had servants, properties, gardens, fields, palaces, you name it. So Rusbeh had everything that he could possibly want. And then one day, his father needed Rusbeh to go to the fields to carry out duty. There was no way his father was going to let him go alone, as he was very protective of him. He loved him so much. So he sent servants to go with him. He said, "Go, my son, take care of these fields today, but make sure you remain with your servants and ask them for anything you need." Now, whilst in the fields, Rusbeh heard some strange chanting. He was mesmerized by these chants, and so he followed the sounds of the chants. Now, no one saw him leave, and he made his way into the group of people that were worshipping. And he had never seen worship like this before, so he was quite taken aback. And he sat with them and he felt peaceful. Now, when he heard the priest speak, he became so excited. The priest was answering all the questions that he had deep inside. So, who were these people? They were Christians who followed the original teachings of Isa, Sayyiduna Isa alayhi salam. They were Unitarian Christians who believed in one God and that Jesus was a prophet and not divine. Now, their practices were unchanged teachings that were taught by Jesus to his disciples. Now, Rusbeh asked them questions, and all his questions were answered, and in his excitement, he got lost and just lost track of time and stayed in the church until late. Now, in the meantime, back at home, his father is worried sick and told all the servants to go look for him. And they came back empty-handed, and that panicked him even more. So later on, Rusbeh arrived back home and excited to tell his father about what he had just seen. He found his father not really sort of taking what he's speaking about. Now, after embracing his son, his father was really sort of upset and said, "My son, where have you been? I sent you to the fields, and where did you go? You didn't even do what I asked you to do." And then Rusbeh explained, as he was speaking to his father, he said, "Father, I learned about Christianity." And suddenly his father's anger, was very visible. So firstly, his father tried to control himself, but the more he realized Rusbeh is so affectionate and sort of like really happy and excited about this religion, he said, "Son, this religion is not for you. Our faith is superior to them, and you're born into an honorable family, and we look after people. We look after the fire in the temple, and everyone comes to us for guidance and support." So even as his father said this to him, Rusbeh still knew that this wasn't the truth. So before his father even finished saying what he was saying to him, Rusbeh said, "Father, I'm sorry, I've already accepted this faith, and I really want to travel to Sham to learn more about the faith." Now, well, you can imagine his father got even more angry and furious. So he grabbed him, he locked him up and chained him, and so he couldn't leave the palace. So now Rusbeh goes from being loved and cared for to now being locked up and ignored. His father tried every day to convince him to leave those thoughts and stick to his original religion. But subhanAllah, the more that his father actually did this, the more Rusbeh was more determined. And every day he was punished physically and mentally because of this. Now, one day he heard from someone from the servants that the Christian group was traveling to Sham. So then Rusbeh was helped to escape imprisonment from his father's house with that group. So he left everything that he knew, all the comforts, fame, money, the community, a sense of belonging. He left all of that for the unknown. Now, this was the start of his journey. And inshallah, we'll continue after Maghrib on Rusbeh's journey. Azan, inshallah.
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وصحبك يا حبيب الله
Yeah, you can keep on because you're gonna.
حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون لهم البشرى في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة لا تبديل لكلمات الله ذلك هو الفوز العظيم ولا يحزنك قولهم إن العزة لله جميعا هو السميع العليم الله أكبر أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله استغفر آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام برحمتك يا أرحم.
किस्मत में मेरी चैन सजीना लिख दे, डूबे न कभी मेरा सकीना लिख दे। जन्नत भी गवारा है मगर मेरे लिए, कातिबे तकदीर मदीना लिख दे। ताजदारे हरम, ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम, ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम। हम गरीबों के दिन भी सबर जाएंगे, ताजदारे हरम, ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम, ताजदारे हरम हो निगाहे करम। हम गरीबों के दिन भी सबर जाएंगे, हामिए बेकसान क्या कहेगा जहान, हामिए बेकसान क्या कहेगा जहान। आपके दर से हानी अगर जाएंगे, ताजदारे हरम, ताजदारे हरम। कोई अपना नहीं हम के मारे हैं हम, कोई अपना नहीं हम के मारे हैं हम। आपके दर पे फरियाद लाए हैं हम, हो निगाहे करम वरना चौखट पे हम, हो निगाहे करम वरना चौखट पे हम। आपका नाम ले लेके मर जाएंगे, ताजदारे हरम, ताजदारे हरम। आपके दर से कोई नहाली गया, आपके दर से कोई नहाली गया। अपने दामन को भर के संभाली गया, हो हबीबे हसीन पर भी आका नजर, हो हबीबे हसीन पर भी आका नजर। वरना और के हंसी बिखर जाएंगे, ताजदारे हरम, ताजदारे हरम। मैं कशो मदीने चले, मैं कशो मदीने चले आओ, मदीने चले आओ, मदीने चले इसी महीने चले आओ, मदीने चले। तजल्लियों की आज है फ़ज़ा मदीने में, तजल्लियों की आज है फ़ज़ा मदीने में। निगाह शौक की है इंतहा मदीने में, निगाह शौक की है इंतहा मदीने में।
गमे हयात ना खौफे क़ज़ा मदीने में,
गमे हयात ना खौफे क़ज़ा मदीने में।
नमाज़े इश्क करेंगे अदा मदीने में,
नमाज़े इश्क करेंगे अदा मदीने में।
बराहे रास है राहे खुदा
मदीने में आओ, मदीने चले आओ, मदीने चले इसी महीने चले आओ, मदीने चले।
مدد يا قاسم مدد يا صديق مدد يا بستامي مدد يا خرقاني مدد يا فرمادي مدد يا حمداني مدد يا خضار مدد يا قشتواني مدد يا عارف مدد يا فغناوي مدد يا رامتني مدد يا سماسي مدد يا أمير القلال مدد يا شاهد شبان مدد يا أطهار مدد يا شراحي مدد 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 يا سيدي مدد مدد يا رسول الله مدد يا أحرار مدد يا بخاري مدد يا درويش مدد يا إمكانجي مدد يا بقي بالله مدد يا فاروقي مدد يا معصوم مدد يا سيف الدين مدد يا بدعوني مدد يا شمس الدين مدد يا دحلاوي مدد يا بغدادي مدد يا إسماعيل مدد يا خص محمد مدد يا راضي مدد يا ضموكي مدد يا صغوري مدد يا مدني مدد يا شرف الدين مدد يا سلطان الأولياء مدد يا داغستاني مدد يا مولاي مدد يا مرشدي مدد يا حقاني مدد 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 يا سيدي مدد مدد يا رسول الله مدد 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 يا سيدي مدد مدد يا رسول الله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم.
Continuing from Yasin, upon reaching Sham, Rusbeh went to the person in charge and told him his story. The bishop accepted him and introduced him to the ways of the Christians. Rusbeh spent many years at this monastery and became comfortable with his newfound faith. As time went by, Rusbeh would see his teacher carrying out his duties. Yet one day, Rusbeh happened to be walking past his teacher's room and then saw him hiding charity into containers for himself. This shattered his belief in his teacher. But it didn't affect his belief in the religion. People corrupt religion, religion does not corrupt people. Anyway, to keep the corrupt bishop's honor and the honor of the church, Rusbeh kept this a secret during the life of the thief. When he died, the priests were preparing the funeral with love and respect. Rusbeh then spoke up about what he saw. He explained that there were 7 barrels of gold and silver hidden in the monastery, and that they should immediately be distributed to the poor. The priests were shocked and hurt, but they distributed the gold and silver. The bishop that replaced the thief was a very pious and God-fearing man. Rusbeh felt an attraction towards him, so he learnt the scriptures and served him until he too was on his deathbed. Then Rusbeh asked, "Where should I go now and who should I follow that will help me in my journey?" The bishop saw the sincerity of Rusbeh and advised him to travel to Mosul. And so after his teacher's burial, Rusbeh left Sham for Iraq. Here he met with the bishop his master described and immediately felt a spiritual attraction towards him. He stayed and again began to serve and learn from him. Eventually, this bishop also fell ill, and before he passed on, he advised Rusbeh to travel to Jazeera, present-day Lebanon, so that he could continue his journey on the spiritual path. In Lebanon, he devoted his time and efforts to learning the faith and serving his new teacher. And again, this teacher also fell ill, and before passing, instructed him to travel to Anatolia, present-day Turkey. By now, we're probably confused you, the amount of teachers that he had and how many countries he's traveled to. This is his 5th teacher that he's had so far, and he's traveled to 4 different countries. He traveled from Iran to Sham, in the first instance, from Sham to Iraq, and then from Iraq to Lebanon, and then from Lebanon now to Turkey, and his journey is still not over. And you have to remember that he's from Iran and he speaks Farsi, so he's got no language in these places, doesn't know the culture and the communities, but he's carrying on. In Anatolia, he once again served his teacher. Upon seeing his determination in searching for truth, this bishop one day instructed him, "There's a holy man that lives in the forest of Sham. He only comes out once a year from his cave, and after healing the people, he returns to it. Go to him and ask him about the last prophet and the religion of Abraham." Rusbeh left Turkey for Sham. Upon arriving at the cave, he stayed outside for 1 year, waiting for this holy man. As the year came to an end, the forest was full of people with illnesses. The holy man came, as Rusbeh's teacher had said, and healed every person there. He then turned and began to walk back to his cave. Because of the size of the crowd, Rusbeh did not get a chance to meet him, and he would have had to wait another year if he had missed the opportunity. So with difficulty, he approached and placed his hand on the shoulder of the holy man and asked, "May the Lord have mercy on you. Tell me about the religion of Abraham." The holy man turned and replied, "You've asked about something no one asks. This will be the time of the last prophet, who will be from the Bayt, and he will be from Makkah." Rusbeh then returned to Turkey. A while later, his teacher also passed away, and advised him before passing, "My son, there's no one left that can take you to what you are seeking, for each is following their ego and desires. And as the holy man told you, it is now the time of the last prophet. He will come to the people in Arabia, in a city of date trees and where the mountains are black. His signs are 3. He will not accept charity, he will accept a gift, and between his shoulder blades there will be a raised piece of flesh that will be the seal of prophethood." By now, Rusbeh had a few animals that he kept to trade. He used to serve the monastery and his teacher with these animals, selling them. So he approached a caravan led by Arabs that were leaving Turkey for Arabia, and offered all his animals as payment to be taken with them. He had no idea where in Arabia he was going to, but that was not his concern. He just wanted to get there. After a difficult and demanding journey, the caravan arrived near Arabia. Rusbeh was excited and eager to hear any news of the whereabouts of the Prophet. He had gone through so much to get to where he was now. But as you've already figured out, truth does not come easy. Not even in Arabia. The Arabs that were his caretakers betrayed Rusbeh and sold him into a life of captivity. And he became a slave to a cruel Jewish man. Being a slave to a cruel Jewish man didn't change him though, because Rusbeh carried out his duties to the best of his ability. His work ethics were second to none. One day the Jewish man's cousin came to visit him and saw Rusbeh's work and efforts. So he asked if he would consider selling him, and an amount was agreed. And Rusbeh was now sold to another Jewish man and was taken to his home in Yathrib. Other slaves couldn't understand why Rusbeh was smiling whilst they were entering Yathrib, and it's not a reason that he shared with anyone either. Every day Rusbeh would listen to any news of a prophet, but nothing. And days went by like this, but it didn't break his determination. It didn't break him. Then one day, whilst up a tree, a date tree, he overheard another Jewish man speaking extremely bitterly with his master, with his slave master. Have you heard what these Arabs have done? They are claiming to have a prophet from amongst them. The audacity to think that the last prophet would be from these desert people. When Rusbeh heard this, he became overwhelmed. He began to tremble and struggled down the tree. This was the moment that he'd been waiting for, the moment he had sacrificed everything for. In his excitement, he forgot his place, and he interrupted the Jew and asked him to repeat what he had heard. Now the Rusbeh's master was shocked. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He said, how dare he interrupt us Jews talking? So he struck him, he hit him, and ordered him to get back to work. From this point on, all Rusbeh could think of was the last prophet and a desire to meet him. When that blessed moment did arrive, Rusbeh sat before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I know you have many people here who are in need, so I offer these dates as a charity. Of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not eat himself, but instead distributed them amongst the visitors. This was the first confirmation Rusbeh was looking for. In the following meeting, which took place around about a week later, Rusbeh collected firewood and prepared a stew with whatever means he had. He carried the stew on his shoulders and brought it before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I see you are surrounded by people who are hungry and poor. I made this food and brought it for you and your companions as a gift. Please accept my efforts. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted and ate, and then distributed it amongst the Sahaba. Second sign was confirmed. Now he needed to see the third and final sign, the seal of prophethood. Rusbeh thought to himself, how can he confirm this sign? This was an impossibility. It's a piece of flesh, the seal of prophet on the back, between the shoulder blades. How is he going to be able to see this? In his third meeting, Rusbeh accompanied Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba to an area of Medina where there was a forest, which is now known as Jannat al-Baqi. It was here that they were going to bury the host of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had passed away a few days after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam arrived in Quba. This entire time, Rusbeh walked behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the hope of seeing the seal. So he's following behind him, no matter where they went, just behind him. But it was difficult because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was wearing a shawl. Well, at one point during the day, they must have known, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved the shawl to uncover the area where the seal of prophethood became visible. Seeing the last sign before his very eyes, Rusbeh kissed the seal and cried. He fell down and that was it. Seeing all the signs as described by his last teacher, Rusbeh fell in the blessed feet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything that he had experienced led to this point. He had found truth. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then asked him to tell him his story of how he came to be in Medina and how did he become a slave. By now, Rusbeh had a basic grasp of the Arabic language, but in his excitement of meeting the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sitting before them, he started to speak in Farsi. It just happened. So Rasulullah stopped him and asked for someone to come and translate his words into Arabic. A Jewish man knew both Farsi and Arabic and so started to translate. And as he's translating, the Jew starts making things up, telling stories, tales, and starts missing details out. Rasulullah stopped Rusbeh from continue and then went silent. Sayyidina Jibreel had come and told Rasulullah that the Jew was lying and that he was basically making stories up, and this is the truth. So then they narrated the entire story. That Jew did become Muslim after this because of this event. Rusbeh also mentioned his meeting with the holy man in the forest of Sham, as this person had left an impression on him. It was a unique personality, something that he didn't forget after that moment. After listening to him, Rasulullah said that if what he said was true, that holy man he met was Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, Jesus. After this, Rusbeh asked to be accepted and was brought into Islam by Rasulullah himself. He was given the name Salman. This Khatam Sharif is in the honor of our master Sayyiduna Salman al-Farsi. We are declaring our love for him just as Allah and his messenger declared their love for him. We have just touched on his life. There's so much more that took place. And we'd love to share that information with you, but already we've taken too much time. So we suggest that you read the article. All the effort and hard work's already been done, and you just need to read it. And considering what Sayyiduna Salman al-Farsi went through to seek truth, the least we can do is sacrifice a little bit of time and to learn about his beautiful personality. Fatiha.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نشرح لك صدرك بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا قاضي الحاجات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا كافي المهمات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا رافع الدرجات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا حل المشكلات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا دافع البليات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا شافي الأمراض بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا مسبب الأسباب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا مجيب الدعوات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم يا أرحم الراحمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد فاتحة. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل